Apologies are naturally related to complaints, which we discussed in the last lesson, and in fact they're based on developing the idea of responding to or anticipating complaints. When you do something wrong in business, or for that matter in daily life, you save yourself a lot of trouble by apologizing first. Before someone complains to you, before anyone has time to build up resentment towards you or your organization or your firm. We saw in the last lesson that it is usually a good idea to break the bad news gently. Here are some useful opening expressions in this business file. Bad news openers. I'm not exactly sure how to put this, but I've got to apologize for... I'm afraid I have something to tell you. This isn't easy to explain, but I believe I owe you an apology. Now, after someone has heard what you've done, they may ask you to explain how it happened. Maybe they will let you off the hook and forgive you. So, we have a business file on forgiving expressions. Oh, that's all right. Don't worry about it. It's not your fault. Forget it. Oh, never mind. It doesn't really matter. Please don't blame yourself. That's understandable, but I hope it doesn't happen again. Well, it's rather serious. I certainly assume that it won't happen again. Notice those last two expressions are much less forgiving than the ones that come before. In the next practice, you must make apologies to me. Imagine that I am your coworker. The on-screen situations will provide the basic information. Here's an example. You borrowed $50 from your coworker last week and promised to pay it back today. Break the bad news gently. You. I'm very sorry, Itzhak. I've had some difficult problems. I won't be able to pay back your $50 until next week. I feel terrible about this. I hope you will understand. Now, obviously, this is a very touchy or delicate situation. The strategy, of course, is simple. Make your coworker feel okay, that he or she will receive the money, but next week or later. All right. Now let's make this an imaginative practice. You will see the situations on screen. Make a response. Measure your response against mine, but don't worry if there isn't an exact match. Here we go. You borrowed $50 from your coworker, Itzhak, last week and promised to pay it back today. But you can't. Break the bad news gently. You. You might have said, I'm very sorry, Itzhak. I've had some difficult problems. I won't be able to pay back your $50 until next week. I feel terrible about this. And you might have added, I hope you'll understand. 2. You promised your friend Pietro that you would telephone the theater to reserve some tickets last week, but it slipped your mind, and there are no seats left. Break the bad news to your friend gently, because your friend was really looking forward to seeing the play. You. Well, you might have said, Pietro, I'm really very sorry. I forgot to buy the tickets last week. When I called yesterday, they were sold out. Now I owe you a big one. Number 3. Your boss, Miss Frausches, loaned you her car this morning, and while you were parking it, you scratched it all along the driver's side. Break the news to your boss gently, because the car was new last month and you promised to be very careful. You. Well, you might have said, I don't know how to tell you this, Miss Frausches. While I was parking your car, I scratched it all along the driver's side. I feel terrible. And then if you're really smart, you might add, I couldn't believe it. Of course, I will pay for the repairs. A very good exercise. Now, here's a hint. When it comes to apologies, business or personal, it's usually better to be straightforward and honest. Then, the worst is history. In fact, Benjamin Franklin, one of our founding fathers, expressed it this way: honesty is the best policy. And that's it for this lesson.